Hi, and welcome to the Unhinged History Podcast, the podcast where two complete, absolute crazy heads are going to compulsively study history and then report to each other the stories we've only recently learned and hope the other one has never heard it before. I'm host one, I'm Theresa, and that is host two.
I'm Angie. I don't know. I was gonna say something different just then. I don't. My name's
I'm
Angie.
Brittany. And it's like, who?
Yeah. What? What? And you are?
I
Wrong
gotta
podcast.
hold on. I gotta go text Angie's husband. I think she's having a mental break.
It's Brittany, bitches.
First off, really shitty Britney impression, but that's also, I think, the first time
Hey,
I've gotten you to say that word.
secondly, I just came out of a huge sneezing fit, okay? So,
Okay, so try again.
no, it's not gonna sound any better.
See, I just wanted to call out the bullshit there
That's all I
because
got.
it was
It's
solid
Brittany,
bullshit.
bitches. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to listen to it more. I've only
And
heard, believe it or not, I've only heard it a few times.
isn't it bitch singular? It's Britney, bitch.
Yeah, you're right.
At least in the song.
You're right.
I'm sure if she showed up at a party, that would be her entrance. She'd pluralize.
I mean, it would be a very sad party if there was only one other member there.
Hey, don't make fun of my parties.
Hey, listen, if that's the way you party, live your dream, man. I'm not trying to stop you.
My
I just
parties are
feel like for
literally,
Brittany,
oh yeah, no, that would be the too low of a bar.
she needs more people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Party for me is literally me on the couch with a glass of wine.
that sounds like a great party to me, if I'm honest.
I know.
Yeah, take you something, party it up. Oh man, are you ready? Are you ready for my?
Oh, yeah, that's right, because you're gonna go first.
I am gonna go first. Um, there is like no way to open this. Okay. So I don't know if I should start with yeah, whatever. Okay.
Start
The
with your
Lebensborn
sources.
program. The Holocaust, the Nazi genocide against the Jewish people. That's from the Sydney Jewish Museum. The Holocaust Encyclopedia, which is run by the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. There is a phenomenal resource called German History and Documents and Images, where they have collected the history of their country and have organized it in sections so you can just like year ranges so you can go through and see whatever documents were available to be digitized. So that was actually really phenomenal. The euthanasia program and AtCon T4 of the Holocaust Encyclopedia,
Ugh.
and then a fabulous YouTube video that I watched called Lebensborn, the Nazi Nurseries by Best Documentary.
You're doing the Lebensborn?
Mhm.
Oh my. Okay.
And then there is this archive called the Arlson Arlson Archives. It's 85 years of Lebensborn, and this archive manages a handful of things, but this is one of their bigger collections, and it was all handed to them. They had a lot of stuff to begin with, but one particular author got like she'd been studying it for years and years and years, so she turned all of her documents over to them, and they've digitized and done their best to curate this information. So I've got a tense one. It's not super long, but I think it's an important one nonetheless. And I know that some of our listeners, it throws them off when I bring the pain, but I heard about an aspect of my story recently and was like, I thought I've heard about this in passing before, but I wasn't entirely sure. Like it sounded familiar, but it also sounded like something I didn't know anything about. So I like immediately began looking into it. So I'm going to tell you, like you said, I'm going to tell you about the Lebensborn program, and I think the best way to start is a quick recap of the Nuremberg Laws of 1935. So back on July 14th of 1933, the Nazi regime enacts a sterilization law. This law is called the Law for the Prevention of Offspring with Hereditary Disease. I think we've mentioned this particular section before in some of our stories,
We had to have.
but basically, if if it's not out there in the world, here it is. It allows the government to forcibly sterilize Germans with certain diseases. There are nine specific medical conditions that this applies to, and according to the Reich, all are conditions influenced by genetic hereditary factors. These are congenital mental deficiency, schizophrenia, manic depression, hereditary epilepsy. Why
Epilepsy?
can I never, thank you. I can never say that word. Epilepsy, hereditary St. Vitus dance, which I was like,
Oh,
wait,
wait
what?
a minute. Wait a minute. So they just, first off, I didn't realize that St. Vitus's dance, the dancing plague, was hereditary.
So there's another name for it, and it's called Huntington's chorea, and I don't know if it's the same or just shares the name, but I had the same question, was like, put a pin in that because I'm real curious. I'm gonna have to Google that later.
Now, in case you're
Um,
wondering, I have to derail us for a second. St. Vitus's dance or the St. Vitus, illness, that was covered when I did the dancing plagues. And that is that is a real thing. That is episode
17.
68.
Oh, okay. I was
Yeah, the
totally off.
dancing plague of 1518. And the title is Nothing is More Annoying Than a Dead Wife.
Honestly. Um, so yeah, if you haven't listened to that episode, I recommend going back and listening to that episode because Teresa knocks it out of the park with that story in the best way possible. Um, Additionally, you have hereditary blindness, hereditary deafness, and then you have like serious hereditary physical deformities. And then anyone suffering from chronic alcoholism can also be sterilized. Furthermore, Section 12 states that once the court has decided on sterilization, the operation must be carried out even against the will of the person to be sterilized, unless that person applied for it himself. The state physician has to attend to the necessary measures with the police authorities, while other measures are insufficient, direct force may be used. And
Ugh.
that's devastating to me. So that law goes into effect on January 1 of 1934. In the time frame that that law was being used, about 400,000 people are sterilized. So then in 1935, the Nuremberg laws were, long story short, as I mentioned, they're legislation that shows this rapid growth in anti-Semitism and other targeted groups, such as um, any other, like the Roma, Jehovah's Witnesses, and of course, homosexuals. They're all deemed undesirable, and these laws work to protect the racially acceptable German or related blood, the whole Aryan master race thing. So it also forbids marriage as well as any extramarital relationships between Jewish and non-Jewish Germans, which is insane to me, but I guess when you want complete control, there you go, right?
Right.
So from the get-go, this is like a terribly problematic problem. Um, but it gets so much worse. First of all, the Reich citizenship law classified people as Jewish if they were descended from three or four Jewish grandparents. But the criteria that defines a grandparent as Jewish is not really specific, and it makes this definition like circular. At this point, whatever remaining civil or political rights the Jewish community have are stripped. And so this is sort of the world that the Lebensborn are born into. Um, and I feel like the Lebensborn would never have even been a thing if we could have just, I don't know, left our people alone to do their thing. Like, but here we go.
Yeah.
The Lebensborn program was created by the SS in December of 1935 in order to promote the growth of Germany's healthy Aryan population. I am saying this with such a healthy dose of air quotes.
And air
Himmler,
quotes are the best thing to use in an audio format for a podcast.
I know, aren't they? Himmler personally founded this as his response to what he saw as a drop in the birth rate among Germans. Shocking, I know. I mean, when you're just sterilizing people. It's weird.
Well, I mean, but you look at, okay, so let's zoom out a second, right? Let's push back on that because look at the developed countries we have now. We've got drops in birth weights in Japan. We have drops in birth rates in the US.
I would agree with that, except for in our I don't know how it works in Japan, but actually one of my classes talked about this. Birth rates have dropped globally because women have jobs and most women, not all, most women have access to birth control,
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
right?
yeah.
Um, but that's not to say that this isn't the same thing that's happening in Germany at the time, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
women are just making choices to have less children. Maybe families aren't marrying as young. Like there's so many
Hmm.
things added to this on top of this forced sterilization program that they have going on. Um, but he is also seeing that there is an allegedly high number of abortions that are being done by single Aryan mothers. So whether that's true or not, he sees it and that's what he thinks is going on. Additionally, as the war years progressed, this program was radicalized even more to the ideals of Himmler, and he begins to worry about the loss of good racially elite soldiers because we're in the war years and we're losing tons of men, and so we need more men, but we need babies to have more men, right?
Yeah.
Like they have to grow up first. So he sees this program like it's designed with the hope that this would be like ground zero for generations of the quote racially valuable humans. So originally, the program focuses on encouraging the men of the SS to have large families. In fact, the documentary I watched, it said that there was like a minimum of 4 children per family. And then the documentary also points out that the men of the SS were given additional orders to seek racially valuable women outside of the marriage to further their procreation.
Wives love that. Wives
I know
really love that.
I super love that. Good for them, I guess. Along with these orders, the Lebensborn program strongly discouraged unmarried pregnant Aryan women from seeking illegal abortions. In an effort to ensure that this was the case, the first Lebensborn home was opened in Steinhorn, Bavaria on August 15th, in 1936. The word Lebensborn literally means fount of life. Um, and I hate how insidious every bit of this is. So this home was, quote, a very well-equipped maternity and children's home. After this initial home was open, around 30 more would pop up throughout Germany, as well as Austria, and then later into occupied territories like Norway, Belgium, France, and Luxembourg. Often, if not always, the homes were on these grand country estates. So they're private, they're out. They give this idea of luxury and just peace. Like that's the whole point. In fact, one of my sources, you can actually go and look at the entire pamphlet that they created about it,
Whoa.
which is it's all in German, but it's still fascinating to see, even if you don't speak German, like what was going on there. And because this isn't insidious enough, the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum says, quote, the Lebensborn program was heavily influenced by Nazi racial ideology and theories of eugenics. It only accepted healthy applicants who could establish their Aryan ancestry. The SS screened individuals' personal medical histories as well as their family records. Applicants could be denied on the basis of their alleged racial impurity or health issues. Now, based on what I said earlier about the individuals who were sterilized, applicants could be denied if their family history had any of the same, like physical, mental, or psychiatric disabilities that were listed earlier.
I hate it, but that makes sense.
Right? They seem to go hand in hand. Like,
Right.
it's awful, but yeah, okay, if you're not going to allow it in one place, why would you allow it in the other, right?
If my sister's deaf, you think I probably carry those genes, which checks.
Right. Himmler was so into this idea of the men of the SS belonging to this group of the biological and racial elite that made up Nazi Germany. So, the members of the SS, as well as their future brides, had to pass medical examinations to establish their Aryanism before they could even marry. I think every bit of this is so disgusting, but I think it's so important to share because we don't, at least for me, when you think about war, you don't, you think about like the battles and the big like plot, right? But you don't, to me, like you never see the back end of things. And this feels like the back end of things, like the backstage
Yeah,
stuff.
where the how the sausage is made.
Exactly. And it's just so heartbreaking to me. So that said, women who found themselves to be both Aryan and unwed would be welcome into these Lebensborn's homes because at the time, as always, there was strong pressure against single motherhood in society.
Now,
They
question.
were frowned upon.
You said encouraged. I'm assuming later on, encouragement becomes much more animated, a little bit more intense, and you're more than encouraged.
So here's the thing. I would love to tell you yes on that, but, and I'll get into this a little bit more later, they didn't do great at advertising these homes. And so, encouraged in that sense is really the only words that could be used because they didn't want it to be something that was out in the mass public knowledge. But they also wanted as many unwed single Aryan mothers as they could get. So it was this very weird line of like how to keep it under wraps, but how to kind of recruit more ladies at the same time, and they never really figured it out. Um, but I'll get into that in just a minute.
Okay.
Though, so these women, they find themselves with this pressure of society, right, to be, if they're unwed, it's just so unfortunate that you would be found pregnant. But these programs, they offered mothers both financial support and adoption services. So it, if you're young and you're looking at this situation and you're thinking, oh my God, I can't even, like, what am I going to start showing? My mom's going to know, or society is going to know. These are homes that are offering you a way out, basically. Um, as I mentioned earlier, these are private homes away from judging eyes. Himmler himself hoped that this alone would discourage the idea of abortion. And I hate that it's not because he values human life, but because he values the Nazi ideals. Like, I want to encourage you to continue having children, but not because I believe in children.
It's his motivation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, but because like while the Nazi regime is strengthening pre-existing laws that prohibit most abortions, they're also operating this hereditary health court that orders abortions and sterilizations that like I mentioned earlier. And despite the Reich's increased penalties for seeking abortions, Himmler estimates that there's at least 100,000 bio biologically valuable pregnancies terminated in Germany every year. I don't know how he's coming up with these numbers. I feel like that's really sort of kind of plucked out of the thin air, but because none of Himmler's statistics in this are like confirmed. They're just
Yeah.
supposed,
This
expected.
honestly, I think if I were divorced from my current timeline, I would probably go, okay, he probably has a study for this, and I might blindly believe it. Being alive now in this current timeline, I kind of go, I feel like a lot of these numbers are made up.
A little bit, just
Like
that sounds like a good round number. We'll go with 100,000. That sounds
you've
great.
seen the meme of like 85% of all statistics are made up on the spot.
Yeah,
That feels like this.
I would have to agree with you. Um, Now, I mentioned these homes, they're country estates. They're designed to be pleasant spaces where the women can live comfortably as they receive care, both prenatal care all the way through labor and delivery, as well as recovery. Now, because the program sought out women who would want to avoid public scandal, the homes prioritize anonymity and the staff is incredibly discreet. This obviously leads to the problem of not having a ton of women show up. So there's that. The program also states that single women would have to obtain permission from the Lebensborn central office before they could take their newborns home. Meanwhile, the program would assume guardianship of the children and determined where they would be raised. And in everything that I read and everything that I watched, it seemed more often than not the mother didn't get to keep their child. And I don't entirely know the like because you have the homes and then you have these SS officers that are told to make all the babies with their wives. So I'm assuming if you are an SS officer and you have a wife and your wife is pregnant with baby number five gets to come home with you. But I'm not really clear on that, and none of my sources had anything to say about it. And so it makes me think it was a case by case situation, and there's no numbers to determine how many children actually got to stay with their mothers. And that breaks my heart.
Well,
Like,
and I think if we probably like went to a country estate that was a spot where the Lebensborn program occurred, I think that information would probably be easier to have. But
if if the information is still available, right?
right.
Anyway, as the warriors are raging, Himmler notes that these homes are not bringing forth enough babies, so he branches out to other countries. And the women who are perceived to hold the qualities the Reich loved, tall, blonde, and blue-eyed, so they set their eyes on the rest of the occupied regions and fell in love with Norway.
About to say Scandinavia, here we come.
hmm Um, the Lebensborn program took control of these foreign mothers, especially so basically they send their troops out and they're like, go make babies. Find the tall blonde women, do the thing, right? And then they would take control of the children, especially if the health, family history, and quote Aryan ancestry could be established with these foreign women. And if that wasn't enough, the Lebensborn program also became involved in the kidnapping of thousands of foreign children that met the standards by the act of repatriation.
There we go.
Thousands of children, mostly from Eastern and Southeastern Europe, were kidnapped and brought to these homes because they either had German ancestry or simply looked the part. I cannot, my brain cannot. Like, excuse me. My youngest son was a blue-eyed blonde. I cannot imagine just walking down the street one day and the Reich being like, "We'll take that one."
Yeah,
Like,
he looks the part. Come with me.
um, no, thank you. The program would then help place these children with German families, telling the adopting families that the children had been orphaned by war. So these adopting families had no clue, probably until after the war when it all came to light. And even then, they may not have ever known. Maybe they would have suspected, but now you would think that this would be successful, right? We are birthing babies and we're still in children, but nope. The program's homes claim to uphold the highest standards of modern medicine, but there were serious complaints about the quality of medical care and the staff. They start to emerge fairly quickly. And, the whole basis of the program being like anonymous and relying on its privacy, it had trouble attracting eligible women. So Himmler had estimated that, like I said earlier, 100,000 biologically valuable German women had obtained abortions illegally each year despite the increased penalties, but only 7,000 children were born into the Lebensborn home during the entire program's 9-year run. In fact, the homes would foster more kidnapped foreign children than they would natural born children,
I hate this.
right? Um, as always, the precise numbers are difficult to fully know how many they stole and how many they birthed. And the legacy of the Lebensborn program includes both broken homes and devastated parents, but it also left an entire generation of children unknown participants in one of the world's worst ideas. This pretty much abandons them to their problems and their labels as Nazis or Nazi sympathizers, whether they were or not. And it's no shocker, but these children had no desire to be associated with any of it. In the documentary I watched, It includes interviews with several children of the program who now are, of course, adults, right? Um, I would highly recommend it. It's so enlightening. The news that you hear in here and the stories they tell are heartbreaking. Like one man talks about how he made it out of the home with his mother and they escaped Germany at kind of one of the real pivotal moments and left. I think they fled north. And when they finally made it back to Germany, her husband found a man or his mom found a man, desperately wanted to marry him, and the man just adored her. And his mother said, "You can't marry that woman because of that little Nazi sausage," to his face. So she abandoned him.
She
So she could
abandoned the
find a
boy.
husband. And that happened a lot. There are stories of children who were born in these homes, and for the most part, their early years are spent in these homes. So they're raised around SS soldiers who were good to them. They were kind to them. They gave them candy and trinkets, and they played with them to find out when the Allies invade that they're the bad guy. So now they're having to deal with this like emotional roller coaster of, but he was good to me, he was kind to me, and you're supposed to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, so there's a lot of emotional turmoil that comes out of it. There's a whole generation of kids who may or may not have ever met their birth parents, who may or may not have ever even known that they were a part of this program, obviously against their will, like they were born into it or they were stolen from their families. And I'm so curious to know because obviously this information is coming to light now and it's been available for a while, but I'm curious to know how many people actually were able to reunite or if they even wanted to. Because that doesn't seem to be the case with a lot of the interviewees. This is their life and they were raised by someone who cared for them and that's the end of it. Now what? And it's heartbreaking to me. But that's my story of how the Third Reich thought babies and kidnapping was going to be the future of their master race.
Joy.
I know, and there's pictures. Um, I just want to show you one because it's insane to me, and um, I cannot imagine. They're just so insidious. Okay, this is them, the children eating their meal, right? It just looks like a kinder class having lunch.
Yeah, and not even all the kids are blonde. There are some brunettes up in that photo.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There are brunettes up in that photo. There is, let's see if I can find it fairly quickly. There is okay, this is what the homes were described as in the pamphlets.
So it looks like a country club. It is a giant estate. We're talking 4 or 5 stories tall, massive,
Massive.
1 to 2 blocks big. This thing is a castle
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of the country.
Mm-hmm. And you've got, dining rooms that are staffed and a full nursing staff. Unfortunately, and I didn't know this, and I mean, it makes sense, but I didn't know this until reading about them. A lot of the nurses were part of like the socialist, like the Nazi party. They had a whole wing of nurses that believed in their eugenics program,
Of course they did.
right? So a lot of the nurses were from that operating in these things that are meant to look and feel like retreats to these people who are literally in a pickle, if nothing else. Like I can't stop thinking about these poor kids. Like it's heartbreaking to me. So there you go. But
Okay.
you can go and you can see the documents and you can look at the pamphlet and you can learn all about the Lebensborn yourselves.
Well,
If you
okay.
want something to cry over.
I will do a sharp pivot to
Oh, thank you.
a very different topic.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. Um, at the beginning of like the week, Angie had told me that she needed a palate cleanser. I was deep in my feels because I had already done a ton of notes. So I adjusted sharply. But here we go. So I'm going to tell you the story of the Bad Butter Rebellion.
Bad butter?
Bad butter.
I am so excited.
My sources, emerging Revolutionary War era. They have an article by Phil Greenwalt called The Great Butter Rebellion. The Harvard Crimson, Riot and Rebellion.
Oh,
The Harvard
okay.
Crimson, Bad Butter in University Commons caused the Great Rebellion of 1776. The Harvard Independent, Sour Butter 300 Years Later by Katie Lynn. And Grub Street, Harvard's First Rebellion Involved Butter by Kara Baskin.
I am so happy you're doing this story. It has been on my list literally since the beginning.
Really? I
Yes.
knew nothing about it, but it was voluntold to me by a viewer on TikTok, and I had it on my list. Didn't even record the person's name, and was just like, "I'll get to it." And then I was just like, "What is this Bad Butter Rebellion?"
I'm
And
so excited.
I think part of it was, I recently covered the founding of the FDA and how
You're
that
just
really
sticking with gross
soured you.
food.
And I was like, this feels adjacent. I feel like it's time.
Love this for me. I still haven't had milk, just so you know.
Well, let me remove butter from your menu.
I love butter. Let's not ruin butter for me.
I'm imagining a trash bag of Kerrygold. But here we go. In the middle of the 1700s, the food served in college dining rooms produced notable discontent among its undergraduates. At the time, colleges are full of the gentlemen, emphasis on the men. They're also, because they're the aristocrats and their children, it's a very tasteful group. So it's 1766. There is a bunch of people up in arms and deep in their feels over what they consider poor quality in food. And this ends up being Harvard's first real insurrection. And this was the Great Butter Rebellion prompted by the serving of sour butter, which President Edward Holyoake, he first declines to replace it. He's like, you know what? The butter sucks, but eat up.
So be
And
it. It's
yeah,
butter.
like get over yourselves. You're just the children of the elite. What are you going to do to me?
My dad will be hearing about this.
Let him. We play golf on Tuesdays.
Oh,
The
in fact, I'll tell him. It's fine.
Yeah, he thinks you're a snot-nosed brat anyhow. Um, the disturbances that this butter created settled like it got a little bit out of hand. And so it was taken to the Board of Overseers, which feels like the Board of Trustees.
I'm going to assume that's, yeah.
And the faculty is certain that their defense of the president and his rotten butter is well taken by the undergraduate body. They're like, you know what? The faculty, we've all come together. We're like, get over yourselves, you snot-nosed punks. And the undergraduate body, they become a little bit indignant, a little self-righteous.
Shocking.
There's
Considering this is probably the same age, like the same time frame as oh my gosh, I'm drawing the eggnog.
the eggnog riots. I
Yeah.
think the eggnog riots were in the 1800s because you have many of those people who end up being a part of the Civil War.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. Okay, that's right. I'm just
But
totally imagining the burrito scene, like
oh yeah.
paying the guard to get burrito money. Anyway,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry, guys.
And the eggnog riots that Angie is going back to, now I get to look that up. That is the episode title wasn't worth the burrito, and that was episode 52.
It's a good one.
Yeah, in case you're wondering, eggnog, riots, school, and the
Listen.
overlap of all of those.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so back to Harvard. There's three students that are all seniors that are deep in their fields. We have Asa Dunbar, Daniel Johnson, and Thomas Hodson. They'd had enough of the lack of fresh food. Now, Dunbar, he's apparently best known for being grandpapa to Henry David Thoreau.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
So Asa Dunbar, he led the protest, stating that the butter served by the college was, quote, stinketh, and he incited the student body to reject the rancid fare by jumping on his chair and shouting the phrase, quote, behold, our butter stinketh, therefore give us butter that stinketh not.
My God, what a man.
This is so full of drama.
I'm here for it.
So, unsurprisingly, Dunbar faces disciplinary action. He's being punished for insubordination, instigating a potential riot, and he receives his punishment. And the student body enacted another protest by walking out of the hall, cheering loudly in the Harvard yard, and then continuing all the way to Cambridge to dine there instead.
This is so stupid.
I mean, but this feels like college behavior.
It is perfect. I'm just imagining like a troop of them from one campus to the next to decide that we will dine here this evening.
And okay, so think about it, right? Because this is a cafeteria. It's an old-timey cafeteria. It's a cafeteria, you
Pretty
know?
much, yeah.
They make food for the number of students they have. Now imagine the entire student body. I mean, because if you see all of your classmates stand up and being like, screw this, we're going to Cambridge, and they
We're
start
going to
walking out, you're
Taco
like,
Bell.
well, I guess I'm gonna go on a chowder run. You walk out with everybody that's you're with because they're peer pressure. You just become a lemming. That mob mentality kicks in. Then you go to Cambridge, and Cambridge is like, we only made food for the 150 students we had. Share and share alike. Like they can't have dined heartily.
But it makes a point, damn it.
It does make a point. Now, we're gonna
I
give
want to
some.
read the letter home to Dad. Father, this school has terrible butter. You told me you were sending me to the best school in the country. It's got bad butter. It stinketh.
It stinketh. Asa Dunbar said, butter stinketh. And I, father, quite well agree with him.
Indeed.
So we're going to give the college some credit. The administration acknowledges, hey, you know what? We do admit butter's rancid. But hey, you know what? There's some economic difficulties. We don't have access to all the fresh food that we want. So it is what it is.
Okay.
Now, Massachusetts has moved closer to open rebellion against the British Parliament and the Crown. And this example gets mirrored by the student body at Harvard because this is British rule that we're under. We're not Americans yet.
Okay.
So there is a month of impasse, a month of discontent between students and dining staff.
Oh my God. Okay. Love this.
And this includes, quote, insulting proceedings of the royal governor of Massachusetts, Sir Francis Bernard, who personally addressed the student body in the chapel on campus, and the protests and insubordinations of the student body continued. So imagine the governor of your state, Newsom, comes to your college to talk to your student body about their actions in the dining hall,
About bad butter.
about bad butter.
Well, listen. If Newsom does anything right, I know he would fix the butter situation because he too doesn't want to eat bad butter.
But in this, I can't imagine that he's on the student's side.
Probably not.
Now, the students end up writing what is called the Book of Harvard.
Love this.
And it is a account in biblical language documenting the disorders of the college, and that publishes in September of 1776.
Um, I like the air quotes there because air quotes are the most seeable thing on a podcast you record.
You know what? Um, your butter stinketh.
That is my new favorite insult.
Now, okay. Okay, so the Book of Harvard is the document that is produced by the students in that biblical language. I'll give you a quote later on. It's it's a bit outrageous. Um, this is all happening as the stewards are continuing to serve bad butter in the Commons. They're not backing down. And then we
Idiots.
have the faculty who they begin to refuse to accept the customary and time-honored but very elastic excuses for absence from college exercises. So they're used to like being like, well, I was dead at the time. I was on the moon with Steve. And they decide, you know what, we'll let it go. Right. But they start,
Dunbar and I it was weird. We were asleep and our door was locked and we couldn't get out. We were stuck in our room.
yeah.
And
And it
anyway,
sucked. But
we
hey,
called
here
for
we
a
are.
steward to open it, but they didn't.
They
So here
they
we
couldn't
are.
hear us.
Yeah.
So there ends up being this other thing written called the arguments for the defense. And this gives the student side of the question. Well, the faculty prepares what they call this long list of representations. And the faculty, the representations, gives their side to the overseers. So both sides are preparing their documents. Now, there's trouble in the air when the authorities insisted that the student body should eat only in the commons and that scholars should be restrained from dieting in private family. You must eat here. We made
Yeah.
food for all of you. We're not throwing it all out. We don't have refrigeration, so you need to come here and eat it,
When it's cooked right now.
whether it stinketh or not, because it's going to stinketh more tomorrow.
Ew.
So 1776, the faculty, they draw up this harsh law. They end up kicking off the trouble here because
Shocking.
part of the text that follows is Article 1, and all scholars, while at their meals, shall sit in their places and behave with decency, and whosoever shall be rude or clamorous at such time shall be punished by one of the tutors, not exceeding 5 shillings. So it sounds like for every time you're loud and obnoxious and scream that the butter stinketh, that's a 5 shilling fine.
Oh my God, I love this so much.
Now, hold on to that number 5 shillings because Article 10 states that every scholar shall for the present pay 7 shillings and 4 pence a week for his whole diet. So if it's
Okay.
$7 or 7 shillings, I don't know what what a shilling translates to, um, 7 shillings for a week's worth of food, 5 shillings for one instance of disobedience is quite substantial.
Yeah.
Now,
But Dunbar can afford it.
you would think. Article 13 states no scholar shall be allowed to go into debt to the butler above $5 and shall have no more credit till that is paid. Okay. So basically you need to pay your fines. You need to pay your fees. The Book of Harvard account of the rebellion. Here's a chunk of it. Chapter 1 or chapter first 1. And it came to pass in the 9th month, on the 23rd day of the month, the sons of Harvard murmured and said, Behold, bad and unwholesome butter is served at unto us daily. Now let us therefore dispute Asa the scribe, go unto our ruler and seek redress. Now,
I
the
love
whole
them
account, go
so
ahead.
much. I just love them.
They have like the full on account, and it goes on and on and on, and it drolls like the
Hey,
King Testament.
good for them. You don't attend Harvard for nothing.
The King Testament, the King James version of
I knew what you
the.
meant.
Okay, thank you for
Yeah.
translating, because I would have listened to this later and gone, Teresa Marie, you know better. Now, according to the Harvard Gazette, this is even a decade before the American Revolution. Harvard's Great Butter Rebellion of 1766 was perhaps the first sign of America's spirit as united in civil disobedience. And it started in Harvard's dining hall, which I don't think we give Harvard enough credit for.
Honestly.
Now, despite the strangeness of this origin story, the student alliance from bad food is a trend that's continuously found throughout the university's long history. Since the 18th century, students have continued to form new communities to escape Harvard's dining offerings.
Harvard needs to step up its cafeteria game.
You know what? Can't stop, won't stop. We have some street cred we need to keep because
The
if it
butter
worked for
stinketh.
your great 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 grandfathers, it works for you,
Honestly. They could play on that now, and their cafe could be called Stinkith, and
right?
people would be down. Like, I'd go.
Are you going to Stinkith or are you going to Rotted Butter? I'm going to Stinkith today.
Exactly.
During the country's downturn in economic stability to access the fresh goods in the years leading up to the Revolutionary War, an act of activism led to half of the student body getting suspended. And this is reported in the Colonial Society of Massachusetts. So Harvard students grew increasingly dissatisfied with the decline in the quality of food and Holyoke's failure to satisfy those demands. The colony or the Colonial Society described that for Asa Dunbar, class of 1767, the meal presented with particularly soured butter was the final straw. As the first student to raise conflict, Dunbar is rumored to have brought evidence of the inedible food to his senior tutor, decrying, "Behold, our butter stinketh, therefore give us butter that stinketh not." So it could be that he brought the butter to the tutor. It could be they stood up on the chair and shouted. We get some conflicting reports, maybe both.
Could be a little bit of both.
I mean, I have a feeling that if you're emboldened by the men around you shouting, "Here, here," you're probably going to continue on with your bullshit.
Honestly.
Yeah, because at this point, you're just one of those obnoxious teenage punks who's just going to double down.
Yeah, I mean, good for him.
So the stinketh not, that catchiness phrase, it stuck, and soon enough, his fellow students join in the motto yelling and protesting. The tensions between the haughty administration and the motivated Krampus grew and became violent and illegal. Now, President Holyoke is fed up and eventually demands that the students return. Nope, the students turn in the leaders of this rebellion. There's no names that are offered. So this is when Holyoke suspends half the student body.
My God, I love this.
This is just
There's no
so
greater force than a
incredible.
shared idea here.
The students, though half suspended, remain silent. And this is at the United States' dawn of its birth as an independent country. And arguably, this is one of the most political turbulent moments in American history, which is a wild concept to know that we were protesting butter. And Harvard undergraduates united under a common goal and refused to turn in one another, despite the academic threats from the university. Eventually, the Colonial Society explains that the Board of Overseers reinstated the status of all the suspended students and replaced the butter. So if you keep up with your bullshit long enough, you get your demands met.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Exactly. And so just like that, one of Harvard's greatest showings of student solidarity supported some of the humblest beginnings, the fight for unsour butter. The notoriety of Harvard as a campus for famously bad food has become an escapable reputation, one aided by the college's own students in continuing to lament and violently protest its offerings.
Hey, man, when you want the burrito, you want the burrito. And
You
if they're
do.
serving bad butter,
So, despite all of this butter protesting, the peace and quiet that comes afterwards, that only lasts 2 years.
of course.
There's the Great Rebellion of 1768, and it's like the first insurrection. It was incited by the college food, and it lasted for a month.
I love this.
The riots are now more violent, but even more unsuccessful.
Mm, I'm never gonna get good butter.
No, this is what happens when you give in to the demands of terrorists. That's basically what the college is saying. And so we just are not going to negotiate with terrorists anymore. So the penalties are severe, and the feeling of that the punished were still martyred lingers. So they're making martyrs out of everybody they're punishing, and everyone's like, yeah, stand up for Asa.
Yeah, justice.
1778, so we're now Americans, the undergraduates are continued to be dissatisfied with their offerings. And they formed plans for weekly group dinners where members would rotate hosting dinner parties. When the turn came to Joseph McLean, class of 1794, he presented whole roast pork, which makes me
Okay.
wonder about these dorms.
Yeah, okay, fair. Yeah.
Now, the students
His
continued
man brought it from home. That's
probably, yeah, okay. So there's these dinner plans that are forming, and they're enjoying each other's company just as much as the lavish food on their plates. And apparently, these meetings never fully ceased. Over the last 2 centuries, the accurately named pork club or porcilian has evolved into this ever prestigious and notorious final club, originating as an escape from Harvard University Dining Service, or HUD's, for simple meal times. Their story is rooted in the same motivations as Harvard's Great Butter Rebellion, a group of students tied to eating the tired, I cannot read out loud. A group of students tired of eating the poor quality, tasteless food offered by the university came up with their own crafty solutions. And so this gives birth to the final clubs, where some of the most notable examples of status divisions on campus exist.
That's awesome.
If you've got the in crowd, I'm a poor mouth. I'm never getting into the final clubs. Let's be honest.
Oh my
You'd
gosh.
come to my final meeting and it would be like, well, ketchup cracker sandwiches, because that's what I was eating during college. Um,
Ew.
I mean, it wasn't that bad, but there were some nights where I did get a little creative. The final
Yeah.
clubs themselves, they're, or you were going to say something. I interrupted.
No. No. I just was agreeing. Yeah.
They're shrouded in a cloak of mystery, intrigue, and critique from the outside. Yeah, if you can't get in, of course you're going to critique it.
Yeah.
Final clubs are now considered notoriously exclusive and elitist parts of Harvard's social scene. Fair.
Okay.
Now, as all this dinner drama is evolving, I'm going to take us back to the Revolutionary War era because I feel like this is important. So, the Revolutionary War is approaching. The groans of hunger are drowned out by the patriotic spirit, which has completely encaptured the undergraduates of Harvard College. Rioting breaks out only once during the days surrounding the revolutionary or the revolution. And that's when two Tory students brought tea into the college dining room in 1775. 1780, there was another successful student revolt in the history of the college, and it was the mildest, reportedly. There's a large student body that forms in the yard one evening, passed resolutions against President Samuel Langdon, and they are demanding his dismissal. So they are deep in their feels. And this is after reading charges against him. Langdon submitted his resignation without objection. He's like, you know what? Screw you kids. I'm going home.
Fair. Didn't like you anyway.
1807, there's the Rotted Cabbage Rebellion. And this is another protest against college food.
Love this.
So the students assemble first at the tree at the end of Hollis Hall, which had become the Rebellion Elm, or which was to become the Rebellion Elm. Okay. And they beg for the food to be improved, especially the cabbage.
Well, at least the butter's not the problem this time.
They march out of the dining hall in a group, and 17 of them are eventually dismissed. The food remained largely the same.
Devastating.
1818, a wild food fight broke out and is chronicled in a rhyme by the clever scholar Augustus Pierce. And he said, and thus arose a fearful battle. The coffee cups and saucers rattle. The bread bowls fly at a rowful weight and break many in a learned pate. I should also
Of
mention that earlier that year, there was a violent brawl involving crockery that also occurred.
course. Because why wouldn't there be?
And that is the drama of eating at Harvard.
You know, I'm so glad you shared the story. My whole day has been made.
I mean, I had to do something to frame us up, get us ready for the weekend, and take us out of the bad taste of the Lebensborn.
Bad butter. That'll do it. Sour butter. Yep.
Yeah,
It stinketh.
I do what I can.
I'm so grossed out.
I mean, look, when I do offer palate cleansers, they are not.
Yeah, they definitely don't inspire you to eat anything, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Um, so there you go. Enjoy brunch this weekend and share this with your favorite person who also hates butter that stinketh.
You know, aye,
And on that note, goodbye.
bye.